What up, what up? It's Ace OG, back with another topic, back with another video. So the title of this video is going to be, companies are going bankrupt during this government shutdown. So we're going to talk about it. So admin notes, thanks again to all the subscribers that have subscribed to my channel. I endeavor to keep pushing the videos out to give you leverage to better sales. So let's get into it. So why do I say the companies are going bankrupt during this government shutdown? And excuse the vest. That normally I would have did this video after I worked out and I was going to work out in downtown this morning, but as you can see with the sun, I can see the sun right now, but it's yeah, it's cold out here, man. So I'm gonna wait till it warms up a little bit before I actually start working out. But I wanted to knock this video out right quick because I got some crazy news yesterday, and it really put things more in perspective as far as what's going on and how I'm gonna move forward from this point. So if folks watching this video have followed me over the last, I would say about a year and a half up until March timeframe of this year, or 2025, you guys have seen me at the very least 3 times a week in DC filming, making videos. Either I was walking from the train station to go to my job, or I was walking during lunchtime near the Tidal Basin, or I forget what the other park is, but there's another park around a pool right beside the Washington Monument. Like, I was all over DC doing videos, right? And you know, that job was best job I ever had since I've been retired from the Army, man. Like no joke, no cap. That was a phenomenal job. It was a non-profit, which I would not name, and more likely I would never name it because even though I didn't sign an NDA with that particular company, but I just feel like that that company doesn't need to be put out there when it comes to me working for them, right? But yeah, it was a non-profit funded by a government agency, which I would not name either. But suffice it to say, most of their funding for that particular non-profit came from the government agency. I want to say they may have some stakeholders at first that funded that particular non-profit, but for the most part, these folks were fully funded by the government. And what the crazy work is that back in, I don't want to give it a date either because you guys will probably figure out what company it is, but I would say back in sometime in the 2000s, right? I'll say the 2000s. There was a mandate by Congress and a bill that was passed where this particular nonprofit was going to get funding every single fiscal year, indefinitely, until, like, something happens and maybe they don't have funding anymore, right? So what I mean by fiscal year, FISCAL, the way the government works is funds are allocated and they're pushed out to companies on October 1st. That's considered the fiscal year, the beginning of the fiscal year. And those funds are yearly. So like from October 1st to September 30th of the very next year, that's their funding allocation, right? And then once October 1st comes again, then they get another set of funding, right? And that's how Congress and these other politicians, they decide on the budget before October 1st, so they can begin the fiscal year with a new set of funding, right? And once I got furloughed from this particular nonprofit back in mid-March, the company, well, not a company, I'm sorry, the government agency that was supplying the funds for my nonprofit basically went under for the most part, right? Their funding was cut off. There was a huge amount of layoffs. I want to say there was a significant amount of folks that actually got furloughed, but they were still on payroll. They just got, they just got sent home. But in the interim, things have been happening up in DC, and suffice it to say, this particular government agency that actually was funding my nonprofit is pretty much done. Like, it's I'm not saying it doesn't exist anymore, but but you might always say it doesn't, because it's pretty much a dead organization now. It's totally done. So my nonprofit was hoping that once the fiscal year started to approach, there would be some things put in place to where, like, maybe the funding for this particular year was out and they weren't getting more funding, and they would float into the next fiscal year, October 1st. And, you know, hopefully Congress would have passed something to hold them over so they could start bringing workers back in, right? And that didn't happen. And I'm telling you, man, this October 1st shutdown it's a play, man. It's a play, I'm telling you, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's not a coincidence that the Trump administration and just, you know, this particular situation as a whole decided to close the government on October 1st. It's the beginning of the fiscal year. This is when all the money starts going out, right? So, you know, long story short, I've been having email correspondence with the CEO and a couple other folks from that particular nonprofit, not directly to me, but but they send out emails to keep everybody abreast, because we're still furloughed, which means we're still technically employed by them. We just can't get paid. So they've been keeping us updated for, since mid-March. Like, you know, when I say this organization is awesome and phenomenal, I mean, like, they have cut no corners. They have been extremely transparent with everything. I could not have asked to work for a better nonprofit, man. Like, for real, like, it's absolutely phenomenal. These folks are good people, and it pains me so much that these folks lost their job and lost their funding. It's crazy, man. Like, these folks did not deserve this. They didn't. They did not deserve this, man. You know what I'm saying? Out of all the government contracts I worked for over the last 7 years since I've been retired, and like all, you know, these gig opportunities I've had since I've been furloughed, this nonprofit has been absolutely, like, outstanding the whole time. You know what I'm saying? So it just pains me that this happened to them. But in any case, I got an email yesterday that they're going to start to auction off all their property that's in that building in DC. So what does that mean? And, you know, they didn't have to say it, I mean, because I know how business works. And I'm just speculating to a certain degree as well, you know what I'm saying? So don't quote me on it, but, you know, once I got the email and one of the higher-ups in that nonprofit said they're going to start to auction stuff off, it's over. Like, I mean, there's no getting around that, you know what I'm saying? They're starting to auction off equipment, they're starting to auction off furniture, you know what I'm saying? So what that's telling me is that pretty much, like, they're telling us that there's no turning back, there's no recovering this nonprofit. Nonprofit will still exist on paper, but, you know, for us to be able to survive and to get funding again, like, it'd be an absolute miracle, because the government pretty much said that, you know, we're not going to do anything for you anymore. It's over. It's done with, right? So maybe they're auctioning off the equipment because they need the funding to close out everything. Because, you know, any type of business you have, man, once you start to go under, and Lord forbid if anybody goes through this, man, because, you know, going under for a business is not a good look at all. Like, it is absolutely heart-wrenching. It's discouraging. I mean, folks really put themselves in a really bad mental state when it comes to stuff like this. You know what I'm saying? So I can only imagine, you know, how these folks feel and how they felt when they had to send this email that they're going to start to auction everything off in that company. It's crazy. But, you know, when you get in a situation like that, we have to, like, auction stuff off. What they're telling us is that they need to pay bills off to actually close out everything properly, because you got to think about it. It was a business in DC. I mean, it could have been anywhere, but in particular in DC, right? So this nonprofit had to pay for their electricity. They had to pay for, you know, the sewage. They had to pay for the rent inside the building they were in. They had to pay for the internet. They had to pay for, you know, the infrastructure of the IT infrastructure they had. Like, they had bills, man. They had some serious bills, you know. So when they lost their funding, they had to tell these establishments, like, we can't pay you no more. Even the security they had for the building, they had to pay for that too, you know. So when they lost their funding, that pretty much, like, that put everything on hold. So that's one of the reasons why they had to furlough us, because once they knew they was going to get a little bit of funding, but they had to pay bills. They couldn't pay us, right? Because the bills are too high. So, like I said, that's just telling me that once they started auctioning stuff off, that's telling me that they need to pay bills off so they can close out the nonprofit in a proper way. And like I said, it'll still exist on paper. I don't think they're ever going to get rid of it. But for the time being, it's dead in the water. It's non-existent anymore, man. It's done. And the government agency that was funding us is done too, to include some other nonprofits that was actually being funded by the government agency. So what am I saying? the landscape of DC is going to change forever. I think that you know, when this Doge thing came down back in February, March time frame, and what they're doing right now with these mass layoffs of government workers and the furloughs, like the government agents, the Trump administration is telling y'all that they want small government. I've said it before plenty of times. They want smaller government, and they're telling you that, you know, the dynamics of work and having a job in DC and just in the government as a whole is going to change forever. It's not going back the way it was before. I don't see this nonprofit ever receiving government funding ever again. Now, I'm not saying it can't happen. I'm just saying, at least for the next, 3 years? Yeah, it's not going to happen. You know what I'm saying? And, you know, one thing that folks need to understand as well is that all these changes that are happening right now during the Trump administration, like, if a Democratic president comes in after Trump, he or she cannot come back in here and change this stuff like in a day. He or she may not be able to change it in a whole administration, right? These changes that happen right now, they're not going anywhere. Like, don't think that you can just, you know, rest in assurance that if we receive a Democratic president after Trump, that, you know, happy days are here again. It's not going to happen, y'all. You know what I'm saying? I'm not saying that things not going to get better. I'm just saying, like, don't ever think that things will go back the way it was before. These changes are for a reason. And truth be told, I believe a lot of Democratic politicians agree with the change. They may not agree with the change with the way it's going about because it hurts their political gains. But for the most part, yeah, it's it's a real thing, man. These changes not going anywhere. It's here to stay. So I hate it for my old nonprofit. You know, these folks have been there since the 90s. And, you know, there's a huge subset of employees for that nonprofit that were in their 60s. And they didn't have, well, I don't know their pockets like that, you know what I'm saying? But I believe that some of these folks did not have an exit plan. They did not have savings. They did not have a good foothold in their retirement. Because I've seen some of these folks on LinkedIn asking for work, and they're in their mid-60s. So just imagine being in your mid-60s, and you get fired pretty much, you know what I'm saying, laid off, furloughed from your job, and you literally don't have no plan in order to retire. Like, you can't retire. It's crazy. So prayers to those folks, man. You know what I'm saying? Prayers to the nonprofit. Like I said, it's still gonna be on paper, so we'll see what happens in the future. It's a good nonprofit, and hopefully one day they'll be able to get back on their feet. So I appreciate y'all. Love y'all. And I'll catch y'all in the next video. Say so, G. Signing out. I'm gone.